Welcome back, everyone. So in this lesson, we're going to look at cost loading, but from a bill of quantities or some other costing document that you have, and not the resources. So firstly, if you open up the example that's attached to this lesson, you will be at this screen here, and you'll see that the hours and the cost here are both 0. So in other words, we've got resources, but it's not assigned, it's not loaded. So we're simply going to load the costs individually on the activities. Right, so to do that, you can have a look at another attached file, which is the bill of quantities that I've attached for you to the lesson. So this is just a standard BOQ or a very theoretical bill of quantities. So don't go and dig too deep into the technicalities of it. It's just for example and purposes, and to get to the bottom of the principles. So you'll see we've got 4 sections here. Section 1 is the P&Gs, then we've got the pipeline, then we have the manholes, and then lastly the pump room, all nicely separated. What a nice engineer. And then if you click on the summary tab here at the bottom, it gives us the summary. You'll see, so it's about 2.7 million. In our example, the resource loaded one, we came to about 2.5 million, which is close enough. This will obviously include profit because it's a tender document, it's a price document. So your cost might be 2.5 million, which is what we did in the resource loaded example. This will now include perhaps a 9% profit to get to the 2.7. For now, let's ignore the VAT on it. We're just going to work with VAT exclusive amounts. So one of the first steps that we have to take is just to rework the data a little bit in the bill of quantities and to organize it so that we are quite sure of what it is that we want to export or take over to the program on a task level. So I've given you an example of how I would do it and how I usually do it. You can obviously better this and change this to your own liking. But what I'll do, because you'll see sometimes you have to group certain bill items into one task, and sometimes you've got one bill item, but you've got several tasks that will link to that. You will distribute it to a number of tasks. So what I'd like to do is I always bring in a link code, and this link code I'll show you how to replicate this on the program side as well. And then so the way that I'll do it is I'll bring in this code. So I'll typically use section 1 and then item 1, and then from my program I'll say, okay, these items in the bill, both of them should link to the establish and mobilize. So once we've established and mobilized, this amount can be claimed, for instance. So I will add in those tasks names, and then I will put in the value that I'm going to group later on. And then once I've finished, then I said, okay, these are all the items that's applicable to establish and mobilize. I will put in a bold item there with a total value, the 20 plus the 35, that I'll carry over to my program now. The same for my overhead costing activity. So that's a time related one, and that will be the 55 plus the health and safety. All of that I will group again under that, and you see I gave it now the section 1 number 2 code there, just to keep track of what I'm taking over to my program. Alright, so in the program what I'll do is I'll copy this, and I will simply now go to my program, go to establish and mobilize, and paste it there at the cost column. Just slightly, there we go. And then the same with that one over there. I'll just copy and then take that over to my overhead costing activity. So, and this is the key to linking from such a document, guys, is that sometimes you have to create activities like this, which is simply a costing activity. It's simply there to carry some cost that you might have in the bill, but there's not really an effort, an activity that's going to take effort or man hours. It's more an activity that's just gonna run and carry some cost. The same might go for the delivery. like we have over here. So let's just do the next one as well. I'm going to go into my bill. And so I finished with this section. I'll typically build in a test over there, as you can see. So I just add up everything that I have in my group columns over here, values, and I'll test it with that summary so that I take each page on its own and to ensure that I don't make mistakes and leave out any amounts. So if there's a mistake, I can always go back to a page and go and see, try and look where I left something out. Then secondly, if I go to the pipe section, you'll see that this excavate for pipe trench, which is these activities over here, as you remember, we have quite a large chainage here, 2.2 kilometers. So, and we've divided them into roughly 11 sections if you go and count them. So typically, guys, I will not do this retrospectively. So I will not link my bill in this fashion once I've completed it. I will definitely, if I know I'm going to cost load the schedule, I will do a section that I know are replicatable, and I will first finish that with my resource loading and my cost loading, and then only will I copy and paste. Then the work is already done and I don't have to go and copy and paste each and every one of them. I mean, sometimes we've got 4,000 line schedules. So to do that after the fact retrospectively is not something that I'll recommend. So in this exercise, we're doing it like that just to show you the principles, but just take note, I'll rather do that right in the beginning as I do my schedule. So that excavate for pipe trench, if we go to our bill, you'll see there it is. I've taken that amount and I simply divided it by 11. So that gives me a section excavate. Then we've got something like this, hard rock and soft rock, which is just an allowance. Now that needs to be grouped in that activity as well. So I've tallied everything up to that amount over there. And this is what I'll take over to my program now. There we go. Paste it over there. Then if we look at the next one, same principle applies. So in this case, it'll be the bedding. Paste, copy and paste it there. I'll give it a unique code again. So this will be section 2, number 2. And that amount is now the amount that I've divided by 11. So that is my group value. So I'm just going to copy that and then take it over to the program. All right, you get the gist of it. Now, the trick about linking your, cost loading from a bill is just to get a feel for the different types of activities. I'm going to show you a unique one. Let's look at the pump, for instance. If we go to the installation of that pump, you'll see it's about in the new pump room. There it is at the bottom. There's the installation of the pump. But I've added some activities here at the top for the order and procurement, delivery time, and delivered to site. So sometimes you might have a material on site component that can be claimed once you've delivered it. And then you've got a component that you can claim once you have installed it. So what I'll do in an instance like that is I will take both the activities into my bill. So if you look at the task names, I'll do something like this, where I've got both of them there. And then I will simply distribute the value. So let's say delivering to site, once it's on site, the engineer will certify 50% or of the material, or depending on your contract. So I'm just going to go with that. And then the remainder once you've installed. So I'll do something like this. I'll simply split it into those different ones. Again, I'll put in a unique link code for it. And then the group value for each activity is already there. So that 32,500 I will then take into the program like this. So I'll put the installation of the pump, the value, and then I'll add the value again at my delivered to site activity. All right, so it's possible, as you can see, it's just structuring your bill a bit and getting a feel for how you're going to deal with the different activities in that. And then what I'll do here as well is you can simply open up a text column. So right click, insert column, and go to text. 1 and 2 I think is used. Just go to text 3. There's something as well there. Just delete whatever you see in that column for now. And I will later on just rename this. Go to the field settings to something like the link code or the BOQ code. And then the corresponding items over here, I'll just bring in that code that I had. So this was S11, and I think that one was S12. And it's especially useful now for the pipe sections. Let me just open that up. So wherever we have excavate for pipe trench, that will be S21. So all the different pipe sections will be S21, S21. So if you later on just want to check where does this amount come from, you can always go back to your bill and then you'll have the code there next to it. So S21, you'll see, oh, that's where that amount comes from. That's the value that we've added to that activity. So it just gives us a good feel for where to keep track of it. All right, guys, so not an eloquent way to link a bill. I think that's why very few people do it. There's no automatic or very simple way to do it. It takes a bit of experience and getting used to the way in which the bill is structured and the way in which you're going to deal with different activities. There might be some contingency activities as well sometimes in a bill. And I'll add that again. I'll create a costing activity in my schedule, and I'll simply add that right at the end. So it's just all about getting a feel for the different ways of dealing with it. And that takes a bit of time, takes a bit of experience. The last thing that I just want to show you is obviously the proration. So if you insert a column, which is the fixed cost accrual, there's the prorated option. So let's say if you've got something like the delivery lead time and you've assigned the cost to that, you might just want to click there to say it's not spread over the activity. It should only take place right at the end. Okay. And then once you've done this and you go into your task usage, you'll see all the information is there as it would have been if you linked or a resource loaded the schedule. There we go. So there's my, so insert the cost. There we go. So everything's carried, totaled up. So if you've done everything, you can always go and check there at the top that it corresponds with your bill. And now it spreads the cost for you over time. And once you start updating, it'll also track your actual versus baseline cost, give you the variances, and you'll have access to all the data. But we'll have a look at that once we do the reporting module. And I'll also show you how to do the cash flow forecasts and whatnot from this view. All right. Hope you've learned something in this. If there's any questions or suggestions on incorporating the bill, you guys are more than welcome to contact me and ask me questions or give me some inputs. Thanks.